Hey guys, this is On the Road.
We're at Southside Smokehouse in Landrum, South Carolina, and we're going to take a look at several different cocktails that are great ways to enjoy bourbon. All right, now that old-fashioned looked pretty good. What's next?
I think next we should go to the next most well-known, which is the Manhattan.
Okay.
Very similar, but a little different. Some people prefer one over the other because of the flavor profiles.
Okay.
We're gonna start with the whiskey again. For this one, I'm gonna do a barrel strength whiskey that's going to help contrast the sweetness in the vermouth. This one clocks in at around 125 proof. You can use any sweet vermouth for a Manhattan. I discovered this one a couple of years ago. It's a Spanish vermouth. It's called Padro and Company. I really like it. It's a little more complex and a little bit more complementary to the bourbon. And then bitters. And for this one, you can use cherry bitters or Angostura. I'm going to use both today. A little bit of Angostura and a little bit of barrel-aged spiced cherry bitters.
Nice. Now, Robert, you mentioned proof. Remind me, what was the proof that you used for the old-fashioned?
It was a regular proof down whiskey, so it was 86.
Okay, and why do you choose to make a Manhattan with a higher proof? You talk to me a little bit more about that in terms of the flavor.
You tend to get a lot of sweetness from the vermouth, so the higher alcohol content will help offset
it balances that a little bit better. Okay,
yes.
All right.
And just like with the old-fashioned, we're just going to stir. You don't want to water it down too much. Just bring everything down to temperature.
Okay. Why is temperature so important when you're making cocktails like this?
Well, you want your cocktail to be cold, of course. If you're going to drink at room temperature, you could just drink the whiskey. But you don't want it to be watered down. You still want to focus on the whiskey itself.
Does the temperature affect the sweetness of the vermouth at all? Is it a greater perceived sweetness if it's colder?
No, it's going to be about the same. It's just a matter of whether or not it's watered down.
Okay.
And just like with the last one, we're going to do a large ice cube. Some people prefer Manhattan straight up. You can do that. Just chill the glass ahead of time, and then pour into the glass. Gonna drop the ice in. And for this one, again, I'll use the filthy cherries just like the old-fashioned, but you garnish with said cherries, and we're done.
Fantastic. That looks amazing.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about the history of the Manhattan.
So the Manhattan, as the name suggests, was created in New York. There's more than one bar that claims to be the origination of the cocktail.
I'm sure.
Again, just like the old-fashioned, no one really knows because it was so long ago. It began when some European spirits like vermouth, which is a wine-based spirit, began importing into the United States, and bars started incorporating that into cocktails. So it did start in New York, hence the name of Manhattan. There's a couple of bars that would probably go to blows over which was first.
Sure.
There's even evidence in books of different bars that say it was first. It was in the late 1800s. Again, when Prohibition started, everything became really muddy and speakeasies and everything was hidden. But in some form or another, was always whiskey. And generally during Prohibition, it was rye because that was what was most accessible from Canada.
Okay.
Was rye whiskey. So rye was the most popular with vermouth and bitters, and that was it.
And so there's a lot of history in both the Manhattan and the old-fashioned. So
For sure.
You made some pretty specific selections with the ingredients, and we mentioned proof a little bit when you were making these. And what are some things that you're looking for in a bourbon when you're choosing one to create? I mean, I'm sure there's variations of this that are all across the board, but what are some things that you're looking for when you're selecting a bourbon to be used specifically in a Manhattan, but maybe also in an old-fashioned? What are some characteristics that you're looking for?
Well, again, it goes back to personal preference. Both cocktails add a little bit of sweetness on top of the spirit. So if you prefer the spiciness of the whiskey, or especially with the rye, the burn of the rye grain itself, you're going to want to go for a higher proof spirit. If you like the sweetness and you enjoy the softening of the spirit itself while still tasting it, go for a regular proof down bourbon or rye to just kind of create a smooth, even flavor.
So Robert, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
These obviously they taste very different. Even though
Very
they're
different.
similar, the taste is very different. Do you find that if someone likes an old fashioned, they may not enjoy the Manhattan as much, and vice versa? Do they generally like both?
It's usually one or the other.
I could see that.
Old fashions it's a very like base set of flavors. You have the citrus
Right.
from the orange, and then you have the berry flavor that come from the cherries, and that's it. Whereas the Manhattan, depending on the type of vermouth you use, it's got a little bit of herbaceous flavor and some the wine notes, of course, because it is a wine based spirit. So yeah, it can divide people sometimes, but even though they're similar, there's kind of a one side or the other.
I know you had a question about the orange that you wanted to check on.
So, you get to the minutia of all this, and is there an orange that you like better than others, or is it just regular oranges come through are fine?
If you're gonna be picky, a Cara orange
Okay.
is really nice.
That's what I thought you were going to say.
It's the sweetest of the general oranges, but in a commercial situation that I'm in, it's I buy 40-pound cases of oranges.
For the folks at home that are trying to recreate these, maybe we have a little bit more access to more and differing types of oranges. That's the reason I asked. We talked a little bit about the cherries.
If you're gonna focus and try and get really good ingredients, get a good black cherry, get Cara oranges,
Okay.
and the bitters is kind of what you want. Anyone who has a home bar that wants to make cocktails needs a bottle of Angostura. You can get it at any liquor store, any grocery store. You need a bottle of Angostura.
Okay.
Even if you don't drink cocktails, you might have friends that drink cocktails. You need
Indeed.
a bottle of Angostura.
That's right.
The Reagan's Orange Bitters is what I use next most often.
So you don't use the Angostura orange ones?
No, I really like the Reagan's Orange.
Reagan's,
All right,
okay.
So let me ask a question for people like us that have a home bar. Okay, we go and buy these ingredients. How long do those ingredients last? I mean, you go through them quickly because you've got your location here where you're serving drinks all the time.
Sure.
If I go out and I'm stocking up on all these different ingredients, how long should I keep these things around?
Bitters are based on very high proof alcohol, so they're not going to go bad.
Okay, so any bitters can be just like a bottle on the shelf of bourbon sitting there.
They will be here with the roaches after the nuclear holocaust.
It's like what? It's like 47% alcohol, isn't it?
It's way more than that.
Oh, wow.
Okay, all right. So those ingredients.
bitters are made with grain alcohol, Everclear essentially.
All right.
Is that why it gives a little bit more of that effervescent, like it gives more nose as well as taste? Just because it's got all that alcohol
Some
and
of
everything?
the purpose of bitters is to add flavor without adding sugar.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So the
That's good.
alcohol keeps it neutral, so you can add the flavor and the bitter without adding a bunch of sugar
Oh, that's
that
good.
you would get with a juice or a syrup or anything like that.
All right, so then the oranges and the cherries and stuff like that, it's just whatever date.
A good black cherry that's soaked in liqueur will last plenty long enough in
Okay.
in the refrigerator.
Okay.
Oh, in the fridge? Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
sure.
Okay, super. Well, that's great information.
That is good.
All right.
All right.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, guys.
Now, we've already seen Robert make an incredible Manhattan that was a little bit more traditional, but he has a twist on that same drink. What have you got?
So now I'm going to do a maple Manhattan. Sometimes I do it
Cool.
smoked, sometimes not. But if you use a good spicy rye, it's a really nice complement from the really sweet maple back to the really spicy rye, and then a little bitterness, and it's good for any time, but it's a really nice after dinner drink as well.
Awesome.
So I'm going to do a 6-year-old Templeton rye, and you can use any rye. It's just nice if it's a little bit spicier to offset the sweetness of the maple.
Okay. What's our proof on that one?
This one's 86 proof, I believe.
Okay.
And then I'm going to do a few drops of cherry bitters.
Are you pretty meticulous about how many drops you actually go in there, or is it kind of like I know what I want this to taste like, I know the customer, and I'm going to
I try to keep it pretty consistent.
Okay.
Those droppers are fairly accurate. The difference between 8 and 9 drops is not necessarily
Sure.
going to mean a whole lot, but I keep it in the same ballpark.
Keep it pretty consistent.
And then
Okay.
we're going to just maybe about a half an ounce of sweet vermouth. And then about 3/4 of an ounce of maple syrup, preferably real maple syrup.
Of course.
We will add ice. glass and stir. And you can, just like with the old fashions, the Manhattans, you can serve this one straight up or on the rocks.
Okay.
Just for differentiation, we're going to serve this one straight up.
All right. And yeah, I see you've already chilled our glass here.
Correct. You don't want to overwater the drink, so you're just stirring it to
Absolutely.
get it cold. So you want to keep your glass cold just so it's always at a good temperature without watering it.
You can see the viscosity of that maple syrup.
Yeah,
in there
it
for
really
sure.
adds a nice mouthfeel to the drink.
And the same garnish
Garnish
that we
with a
had
little
before.
cherry, and we're done.
Fantastic. Can't wait to try that one.
This is the Maple Manhattan that you just made for us. So we're going to get to try this out.
Yeah, it's not terribly adventurous or complicated. It's just a Manhattan. I backed off on the bitters and the vermouth a bit, added some really nice real Vermont maple syrup, and it really pairs well with the bourbon, and it all complements and gives it some nice texture, and it's just a good drink for cold weather.
Very cool.
Got to give it a shot.
It's got a great aroma for sure.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
You can taste that maple.
Maple comes through.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
It's definitely sweeter.
And I do this variation with smoke sometimes, and that really elevates everything
That's
a
good.
bit.
It's still good.
It's good.
Oh, yeah, it's
good.
quite good
So
without
if
it.
you smoked it, what would you do different?
I just add the smoke flavor just to kind of
You smoke the
squash
glass?
down the. No, not the whole drink. I would make the drink and then smoke it and then serve it.
Wow.
Just to kind of. It
is
adds
good.
some bitterness and then subdues that maple flavor a little bit. But I
very
generally do maple wood with it to kind of.
Oh, smoked maple
Yeah.
wood.
Yep,
Oh,
to get in the
that's great.
same.
That's
in the
that's
same
really good.
neighborhood, Yep.
Again, new experience here. This is great.
for those that don't like the vermouth flavor and the like the peppery herbaceous qualities, that one helps because you back off on the vermouth and it adds some sweetness and it makes it more palatable for the average person.
Definitely
Yeah.
smooths it out
This,
for sure.
this feels like an after dinner drink.
Yes,
For
I
sure,
agree.
absolutely.
So it's almost kind of like would be a substitute for like a port wine or something like that.
Mhm.
Maybe.
Yeah, if you're strictly whiskey and
Like that,
you
huh?
want something
Yeah,
after
yeah.
dinner, this is perfect.
Yeah.
See, you might have sold him here.
Very
pretty
cool.
good.
Yeah, this is incredibly different from the
Very different, but
from the traditional
but not
Manhattan.
but not the hit of maple that you think it
No, you thought it'd be
would be
different
so
than that.
forward in the maple, but it
Normally,
really-
you're
it
not
comes-
eating
the maple
pancakes.
comes-
You don't want a lot.
No,
It's
Exactly.
The
just a
maple
hint.
comes through, but
Yeah.
it really has a good hint.
Just a hint.
I'm with you, Dave. This would be a great after dinner drink.
Yeah, it's a really like a tawny port wine kind of.
And the color's great on it. I mean, it's nice having this tall glass like this. We're not in a low ball. It's nice to have it elevated. You can really see it. You're holding it, keeping your hot hand off that drink, keeping it
Yeah,
nice
you
and
can
cold.
see the viscosity of the maple
Yeah, it's
in there.
definitely-
Yeah, you definitely see it's a thicker drink.
It's
because
got
of the
legs
maple.
like wine, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
If you were to kind of expand this idea of taking something that's a traditional cocktail, the old fashioned, the Manhattan, and do some variations, what are just some things, if you could brainstorm for us just for a second, what are some things that if somebody was trying this at home and they had a handful of ingredients at a home bar, what are some different alternatives they could do? Is there something they could substitute? There's just something they could add more of? Like, what are some variations that you could do to sort of tweak some of these if somebody wanted to get adventurous?
Well, there's never a wrong answer. It depends on what you like and what you want. We here at the Smokehouse like to use a lot of local seasonal things. So I try to incorporate that in my cocktail menu a lot. Local fruits, I mean, you can even take, you would never think that strawberries or peaches would go with traditional bourbon drinks. But in the summertime, I make what I call a cold fashioned that's pureed peach with bitters and sugar and bourbon, and I serve it over shaved ice. And it's a wonderful, refreshing, cold variation on an old fashioned, and it's
Oh, wow.
absolutely delightful.
That sounds like an invitation back in the summer.
Absolutely.
Indeed.
And we despite Georgia's namesake, we have the best peaches that exist.
Well, definitely let us know in the comments if any of you guys who have been watching our channel have any ideas for other types of cocktails, other things that you could mix together to make some of these drinks. Let us know. We're always looking for new ideas. Thanks for sticking with us through these very interesting episodes that are kind of a departure from that, always having bourbon neat or always having it on the rocks. I think this has been a really adventurous, unique, experience for all of us to try some new things. So we hope you'll let us know some ideas or thoughts that you have in the comments. Please like and share this video. That helps us keep this thing going. We love bourbon. We love hanging out with each other. We love making new friends. That's what this channel is all about. So if you like that, if that's something that you can get on board with, please help us out. Share this. That helps us a lot with the YouTube algorithm. And drink, enjoy, share, and remember, it's delicious. Cheers.
It is.
Cheers.
Marker. Whoa.
Whoa, give him another.
How many cocktails have you had today?
17.
Cut me off.
3,
No.
2.
Hold it.
We talked a lot.
3,
Okay.
2.
No, that's not it.
This is Maple Manhattan Marker. Somebody
Oh, wow.
count me down.
In
3, 2,